Hey everyone, good morning. This is your Wit and Wisdom video lesson for Thursday, February 11th. And we are on day 15, 14. Hold on, let me look. 15. We're on day 15 of Module 3. And it's actually a pretty long video today, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Remember, we're on a new book today, Ruby Bridges Goes to School, and I have uploaded a copy of the book for you. So if you want to open it up to follow along, that would be great. And make sure you have your knowledge and response journal ready. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started.
Welcome back, incredible thinkers. I'm Sue Sabella, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today, you'll need your journal and a pencil. We'll be reading from Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story. I'll have the story up on the screen, but if you have a copy with you and you'd like to grab your own copy to use today, grab that along with your journal and your pencil. Pause here to get what you need and just hit play when you're ready to continue. Wow, I love to learn new strategies, especially to help me as a reader. Today, we're going to take a look at a new strategy called Scape. It's going to help you with recounting, and when you use it, it also helps you to answer questions that you have as a reader. Ready? Let's get started. By using Scape, it will help us understand what is happening in this very special text. This text is special for so many reasons, for what's inside in the content, but also because this is an autobiography. An autobiography means that this book was written by the person the book is about. This book about Ruby Bridges was written by Ruby Bridges. It's written in first-person point of view. We know Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story is an autobiography and written in first-person point of view because of the words that the author used. Remember those key words, I, me, and my. Those are key words that signal to us right away that this is written in first-person point of view. Another way to describe this text is that it's narrative, which means story, nonfiction. Nonfiction means that it's true. This story follows a narrative sequence with a beginning, a middle, and an end to the story inside. And also, it's nonfiction. It's true. I bet these pictures look familiar to you. We use these pictures as story stones when we have identified setting, characters, problem, and solution before. Today, we're going to be using those same pictures, but in the form of this chart, the Scape chart. The Scape chart also helps us think about the action. The action is what a character does in the story. Because you're so curious, you're probably wondering, why is this chart called Scape? Take a look at the first letter in each of the story element words to see if you can answer that question for yourself. That's right. Each letter in Scape stands for one of the story elements. Scape makes the story element sticky in our mind. The letter reminds us to look for and to think about each story element. S is for setting. C C is for shout it out. A is for P is for E is for. Thanks for your help. It's important to remember, especially now that you're in second grade and reading longer, more complex stories, that these story elements don't always appear in order. You might see a problem before an action. You might not meet all of the characters until the very end. You're really going to have to pay attention, and that's where SCAPE comes in really handy as a strategy. As a learner, you'll have a choice here. You can either use SCAPE along with my read aloud to figure out what's happening in this story. You'll be able to point to the chart as you hear and see the different story elements as they come up in my read aloud. Or you can use SCAPE to find out what's happening in this text all on your own, using your own copy of Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story. You'll need some paper, some scrap paper, or some stickies with the letters from SCAPE. So, for example, as you're reading the story and you've noticed what the setting is, you would put a piece of paper in your book there, or a sticky, with the letter S for setting. As you continue to read, you're looking for the characters in the story as well. And what letter would you use for characters? You'd use the letter C. And if there's more than one character in the story, could you have more than one piece of paper with a C on it? You sure could. And after you find the characters, remember you're going to continue to read and you're going to look for actions. And there could be more than one, so you might have more than one A. What else are you looking for as you're reading if it's SCAPE? Yep, you'll have a piece of paper that has P on it as well. And P stands for problem. That's right. And then finally, you'll have an ending. And what letter are you going to write on that piece of paper? That's right, E for ending. If you're going to try SCAPE on your own with your own copy of the book, you'll pause here. And then you'll hit play to check your work along with my read aloud. If you're going to continue with me, with the read aloud and the chart up on the screen, you won't hit pause, you'll just keep playing. Ready? Here we go. A long time ago, some people thought that Black people and white people should not be friends. In some places, Black people were not allowed to live in the same neighborhoods as white people. I bet you pointed to S in setting because you heard the words a long time ago. This story happened a long time ago. Ready? Let's keep going. In some places, Black people were not allowed to eat in the same restaurants as white people. And in some places, Black children and white children could not go to the same schools. This is called segregation. The United States government said, segregation is wrong. People should live where they want. People should eat where they want. Children should go to school where they want. Pause here to do some powerful thinking about the problem in this story. And just hit play when you're ready to continue. My name is Ruby Bridges, In 1960, I went to kindergarten in a school for Black children. I liked my school. I liked my teacher. I liked my friends. I'm going to continue to read, and as I do, you'll be working on the scape chart on your own. As you hear or read a story element in the story, be sure to point to the chart. Ready? Here we go. But there was a school for white children, even closer to my house than the school for Black children. It was the William Frantz Elementary School. The government said Ruby Bridges should be allowed to go to the William Frantz School. In 1961, I was in first grade. My mother took me to the Frantz School. Marshals came with us to make sure that we were safe. Some people did not want a Black child to go to the white school. They stood near the school. They yelled at me to go away. Parents took their children out of the school. I was alone with my teacher, Mrs. Henry. I loved Mrs. Henry, and Mrs. Henry loved me. I was a very good student. I learned math. I learned how to read. But I wish the children would come back. Months and months passed, then one day, children began to come back to school. At last, I had friends to play with. I was very, very happy. Many people have read about me in newspapers and books. A famous writer, John Steinbeck, wrote about me. He wrote that I was very brave. A First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, wrote a letter to me. The letter told me that I was a good American. Norman Rockwell was an artist who painted a picture of me. The painting has become very famous. Now I am a grown up. I am married. I have children. One day, Mrs. Henry and I were both asked to be on a TV show. That was the first time we had seen each other in many years. Now we talk to each other often. Now, Black children and white children can go to the same schools. I like to visit schools. I tell my story to children. I tell children that Black people and white people can be friends. And most important, I tell children to be kind to each other. Pause here to use the scape chart to think about what happened in this text. Where did it take place and when? Who were the characters? What was the problem? And what actions did the characters take? How did the story end? Do some powerful thinking and even scroll back on the timeline if you'd like to listen again. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. You probably noticed that as you thought about what happened in the text, You did some hopping around the scape chart. You didn't necessarily go in order from top to bottom. And that's what happens when you read more complex texts. The important thing about the scape chart is to think about each story element. It's okay if they don't come in order. The problem could come before the action, like it did in Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story. The problem was that some people did not want Ruby at the white school. No other kids were there, and she was alone with Mrs. Henry. But Ruby took action. She was brave, and she kept going to school. There's definitely a lesson we can learn there. Please pause here to look over the chart on your own and check your thinking against the thinking in this chart. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so it says that the setting for this book was a long time ago, between 1960 and 1961, and it was at the William Frantz Elementary School. We know that the main characters, or the primary characters, stop stepping on my Chromebook, were Ruby Bridges and Mrs. Henry.
There's the
Go back. Kitty cat made it go forward. All right, so we know that the problem was that some people did not want Ruby at the white school. And so no other kids came to school, and it was just Ruby and Mrs. Henry alone. And the action was that despite all of the things that were happening, Ruby kept going to school every day. Cat, oh. All right, and then the resolution is at the end, children came back, lots of people heard Ruby's story, and Black and white children were able to go to school together.
There's a check mark in the corner, and you know what that means. Your teacher's going to take this opportunity to check in with you. This time, you'll be using the SCAPE strategy to recount Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story. You'll recount what happened in this text using the story elements in SCAPE. But you have a choice as a learner. You can record your recounting, and you can ask your teacher how he or she would like you to do that, or you could write your recounting in your journal. It's your choice. Pause here to do that work now and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so we are not going to write this in your journal. What you are going to do, I'm going to try to use Flipgrid again. Do you guys remember doing that at the beginning of the school year? And then something happened and it wouldn't work. So we're going to try it again. And what I want you to do is you're going to scroll back on the video to the SCAPE chart, right? She keeps moving it with her tail. So like right here, and you're going to use that to help you recount the story of Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story, on Flipgrid. Okay, and it will be an assignment posted. All right, so cat, hold on. All right, so here we go. Back to the video.
That's a really good question. Not only is SCAPE a good reading strategy, but it can also help us as a writer.
Okay, so the question was, how does writing a first-person narrative work?
By using a SCAPE chart, it can help us write a very full narrative. Narratives tell stories, and they tell stories that usually follow a sequence and show the passage of time. Narratives also have story elements. They have a setting, characters, a problem, actions, and an ending. Since narratives tell stories that have story elements, the scape chart is so helpful when you want to write your own narrative. For example, when I was a little girl, I used to like to play baseball in my neighborhood. I can use the scape chart to help me tell the story and to plan out my writing. When I think back on one game in particular, I can picture it in my mind. And I picture us on the baseball field, and it's me and my brother. We brought our gloves, we brought the ball, but there was a problem. We forgot the bat. My brother ran home to get the bat, and he ran back to the baseball field. That was the action that he took. We played a great game with our friends in the neighborhood, and then we went home and had some ice cream. Now it's your turn. Pause here to grab your journal and your pencil and create a scape chart in your journal and plan out a story from your own life. And that's right, there's a check mark in the corner. Your teacher will take this opportunity to look over your scape chart. Be sure to take your time, as much as you need, and just hit play when you're ready to wrap up our video lesson.
Okay, so in your journal, Knowledge Response Journal, we're on page 132 today. You are going to create a scape chart. Okay, you need to put today's date on top, 2-11, and write scape chart. And then you're going to make those areas. We're going to have setting, characters, action, problem, and ending. And what you are going to do is you are going to fill out a scape chart based off of something that has happened to you in your life. Okay, you're going to tell me the setting and the characters and the action and the problem and the ending. Okay, and then what I want you to do with your learning partner is tell that story to your learning partner. Okay, and then you're going to take a picture of page 132 so I can see that you completed your scape chart. All right, and you're almost done. I'm going to flip. Excuse me, quit smacking my hand.
The scape strategy is definitely a keeper. It can really be helpful when you're reading and also when you're planning your writing. I love when a strategy is helpful in both areas. And you worked really hard today. You should be very proud of yourself. Take care, and I will see you again very soon.
Okay. Oh, stop, kitty. Sorry. Okay, so that is the end of today's video lesson. So remember, you are going to complete page 132 with your own scape chart about something that has happened in your life, your experiences. And then you are going to use the scape chart that Miss Sabella filled. Oh, she gave me a kiss. That was so sweet. You're going to use the scape chart from the video that Miss Sabella filled out for Ruby Bridges' My True Story to retell me the story, hopefully on Flipgrid. Fingers crossed that it works this time, okay? And that's it. That's all your work for today, and I hope you guys have a great afternoon, and I will see you at phonics. Bye.